Sūrat ash-Shams is the 91st surah of the Qur'an with 15 ayat. It opens with a series of solemn oaths sworn on various astronomical phenomena, the first of which, by the sun, gives the surah its name, then on the human soul itself. It then describes the fate of Thamud, a formerly prosperous extinct Arab tribe. The Prophet Saleh urged them to worship God alone, and commanded them in God's name to preserve a certain she-camel. They disobeyed and continued to reject his message, and God destroyed them all except those who had followed Salih. Name of the surah. Jalaluddin al-Suyuti, co-author of the classical Sunni tafsir known as Tafsir al-Jalalain, suggests that some of the surahs have been named using incipits. The surah has been so designated after the word ash-Shams with which it opens. Hamid ad-Din Farahi, a celebrated Islamic scholar of Indian subcontinent, is known for his groundbreaking work on the concept of nazm, or coherence, in the Qur'an. He writes that some surahs have been given names after some conspicuous words used in them. Touched by an angel. Tafsir Juz Amr is an Al-Maghrib Institute tafsir course which further investigates that the sun is mentioned in several surahs. The reason why is, this one called Surah Shams is because, in it, the sun is mentioned 4 times. Allah says, 91-1, 92-2, 92-3, 92-4. Translation, by the sun and its brightness, and the moon when it follows it, and the day when it displays it, and the night when it covers it. Notice it. In Arabic, the pronoun used is ha, which is feminine, and, coincidentally, all the other nouns referred to are masculine, which only leaves ash-Shams, the sun, which is a feminine word. That's the it referred to in the first 4 ayat. Period of revelation. Sūrat ash-Shams is a Meccan surah. Meccan surahs are chronologically earlier surahs that were revealed to Muhammad at Mecca before the Hijrah to Medina in 622 CE. They are typically shorter, with relatively short ayat, and mostly come near the end of the Qur'an's 114 surah. Most of the surahs containing Muqatta'at are Meccan. In his book The Qur'an, William Muir classifies ash-Shams in a Quranic subcategory known as the soliloquies, a literary form of discourse in which Muhammad talks to himself or reveals his thoughts without addressing a listener. However, Saleh argues that this surah seems to be ruled out of the category by the change in style of ayat, theme and subject matter. In view of the subject matter, this surah consists of 2 parts. The first part consists of VV 1-10, and the second of VV 11-15. According to an account from the book A Comprehensive Commentary on the Qur'an, translated by George Sale, principal subjects of verses 1-10 is oaths that man's happiness and misery depends on the purity or corruption he hath wrought in it, and Thamud, destroyed for rejecting the Prophet, in verses 11-15. Sayyid Qutb, who was an Egyptian author, Islamist of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and was seen as a controversial intellectual due to his justification of violence against civilians, surmised the overall theme of Sūrat al-Layl in the introduction to his extensive Quranic commentary, Faisal al-Quran, by saying, "This surah, which maintains the same rhyme in all its verses and keeps the same musical beat throughout, starts with several aesthetic touches which seem to spring out from the surrounding universe and its phenomena. These phenomena form the framework which encompasses the great truth which is the subject matter of the surah, namely, the nature of man, his inherent abilities, choice of action, and responsibility in determining his own fate." This surah also refers to the story of the Thamud and the negative attitude to the warnings they received from God's messenger, to the killing of the she-camel, and finally the complete annihilation. This provides an example of the unpromising prospects which await those who corrupt their souls instead of keeping them pure and who do not confine themselves within the limits of piety. Successful is the one who keeps it pure, and ruined is the one who corrupts it. Qur'an 90-9-10. Sūrat Qutb. Faisal al-Quran. Javed Ahmad Ghamidi, a well-known Pakistani Muslim theologian, Quran scholar and exegete, and educationist, surmised the overall theme of Surah Shams as the leaders of the Quraysh have been warned, on the basis of the law of retribution, about the rebellious and arrogant attitude towards the prophetic mission. And his analysis of subject says, the existence of pairs, like the sun and the moon, the night and the day, and the earth and the sky, as a general rule in the manifestations of nature, shows that just as either member of a pair needs its complement to become meaningful, this world also is incomplete unless it is viewed together with its complement, the day of reward and punishment. The innate concepts about good and evil in the human soul and the perfection given to it also testify to this reality. The day of judgment, a mention of the pathways which will lead to success and doom in the hereafter. Historical evidence is presented on the law of retribution to thereby indirectly warn the Quraysh that if they to exceed the limits in their arrogant and rebellious attitude, like the people of the Thamud, then they will be totally wiped out, and the Almighty shall enforce His decision on them without any hesitation. Javed Ahmad Ghamidi. The theme of Surah Shams presented in Malik al-Quran translation coincides with Javed Ahmad Ghamidi's theme and overlaps with thematic analysis of Sayyid Maududi, which says, while narrating this story of the Thamud, nowhere in the surah has it been said, O people of Quraysh, if you rejected your prophet Muhammad, as the Thamud had rejected theirs, you too would meet with the same fate as they met. The conditions at the time in Mecca were similar to those that had been created by the wicked among the people of Thamud against the prophet Saleh. Therefore, the narration of this story in those conditions was by itself enough to suggest to the people of Mecca how precisely this historical precedent applied to them. Abul Maududi, and that its theme is to distinguish the good from the evil and to warn the people who were refusing to understand this distinction and insisting on following the evil way of the evil end. However, Malik argues that major issue, divine law and guidance in this surah is that success depends on keeping the soul pure and failure depends on corrupting it. People of Thamud were leveled to the ground for that very reason. Sūrat Ash-Shams 91-1-10. The first part deals with three things. 1. That just as the sun and the moon, the day and the night, the earth and the sky, are different from each other and contradictory in their effects and results, so are the good and the evil different from each other and contradictory in their effects and results. They are neither alike in their outward appearance nor can they be alike in the results. 2. That God, after giving the human self powers of the body, sense and mind, has not left it uninformed in the world, but has instilled into his unconscious by means of a natural inspiration the distinction between good and evil, right and wrong, and the sense of the good to be good and of the evil to be evil. 3. That the future of man depends on how, by using the powers of discrimination, will and judgment that Allah has endowed him with, he develops the good and suppresses the evil tendencies of the self. If he develops the good inclination and frees his self of the evil inclinations, he will attain to eternal success, and if, on the contrary, he suppresses the good and promotes the evil, he will meet with disappointment and failure. Salih al-Tustari, a Sufi and scholar of the Quran, mentions, by the day when it reveals her, he said, this means, the light of faith removes the darkness of ignorance and extinguishes the flames of the fire. Sūrat Ash-Shams 91-11. to 11-15 in the second part, citing the historical precedent of the people of Thamud. The significance of prophethood has been brought out. A messenger is raised in the world, because the inspirational knowledge of good and evil that Allah has placed in human nature is by itself not enough for the guidance of man, but on account of his failure to understand it fully, man has been proposing wrong criteria and theories of good and evil and thus going astray. That is why Allah sent down clear indefinite revelation to the prophets to augment man's natural inspiration so that they may expound to the people as to what is good and what is evil. Likewise, the prophet Saleh was sent to the people of Thamud, but the people, overwhelmed by the evil of the self, had become so rebellious that they rejected him, and when he presented before them the miracle of the she-camel of God, as demanded by themselves, the most wretched one of them, in spite of his warning, hamstrung it in accordance with the will and desire of the people. Consequently, the entire tribe was overtaken by a disaster. Asbab al-Nuzul. Asbab al-Nuzul is a secondary genre of Quranic exegesis directed at establishing the context in which specific verses of the Quran were revealed. Though of some use in reconstructing the Quran's historicity, asbab is by nature an exegetical rather than a historiographical genre, and as such usually associates the verses it explicates with general situations rather than specific events. Most of the Mufassirun say that this surah was revealed at Mecca, at a stage when opposition to Muhammad had grown very strong and intense. Special traits of Sūrat ash-Shams. Muhammad is reported to have said that the reward of reciting this surah is compared to the things upon which the sun and the moon shine. The Shia Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq said that the person who recites the Sūrat ash-Shams, al-Layl adh and al-Inshira will, on the day of judgment, find all creatures of the earth testifying on his behalf, and Allah will accept their testimony and give him a place in Jannah. Hadith about Surah ash-Shams. Abdullah ibn Umar narrated that while Muhammad was passing by Thamud's houses on his way to the Battle of Tabuk, he stopped together with the people there. The people fetched water from the wells from which the people of Thamud used to drink. They prepared the dough and filled the water skins from it. Muhammad ordered them to empty the water skins and give the prepared dough to the camels. Then he went away with them until they stopped at the well from which the she-camel used to drink. He warned them against entering upon the people that he had been punished, saying, "Do not enter the house of those who were unjust to themselves, unless weeping, lest you should suffer the same punishment as was inflicted upon them." Narrated Jabir ibn Abdullah. Mu'adh ibn Jabal used to pray with the Prophet and then go to lead his people in prayer. Once he led the people in prayer and recited al-Baqarah. A man left and offered prayer and went away. When Mu'adh came to know about it, he said, "He is a hypocrite." Later that man heard what Mu'adh said about him, so he came to the Prophet and said, "O Allah's Apostle, we are people who work with our own hands and irrigate with our camels. Last night Mu'adh led us in the prayer and he recited Surah al-Baqarah, so I offered my prayer separately, and because of that, he accused me of being a hypocrite." The Prophet called Mu'adh and said thrice, "O Mu'adh, you are putting the people to trials. Recite Wash-Shamsi wa-Dahaha or Sabiyasma Rabbi Karla or the like." Narrated Jabir ibn Abdullah. Once a man was driving to Nadir and night had fallen. He found Mu'adh praying, so he made his camel kneel and joined Mu'adh in the prayer. The latter recited Surat al-Baqarah or Surat an-Nisa. The man left the prayer and went away. When he came to know that Mu'adh had criticized him, he went to the Prophet and complained against Mu'adh. The Prophet said thrice, "O Mu'adh, are you putting the people to trial?" Quote, It would have been better if you had recited Sabi isma rabbika alala washamsi waduhaha or wal layli idha yasha for the old, the weak and the needy pray behind you. Jabir said that Mu'adh recited Surah al-Baqarah in the Isha prayer, number 673.